Welcome to Swirl AI Search, the podcast that dives deep into the world of enterprise AI search. Discover how to unlock the value hidden within your internal data and accelerate your journey to actionable insights. Let's cut through the noise and find out how you can get the most out of your internal information. As befitting a podcast about AI, this episode was created with the help of Notebook LM. Please enjoy the Swirl AI Search podcast.
So you know that feeling, that your company's best ideas, the real gold, are just somewhere, buried deep in all that data.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The data's there. Everyone knows it is.
But finding it, using it, it feels like you're just running through a maze sometimes.
Totally.
Well, today we're going to zero in on a really key part of this, how you actually do AI-powered search inside your company, strategically.
Right. What's the best approach?
Exactly. So if you're looking to get up to speed fast, but, properly understand a pretty critical bit of enterprise tech, you're in the right place.
hmm
We're diving into an article here from April 2025, and it really gets into the pros and cons of different ways to deploy AI search.
It's a good one. It lays out the core issue quite clearly.
Yeah, so our mission for this deep dive is basically to get why the location, the physical or logical spot where your AI search lives, why that matters so much.
Or security, compliance.
And just how well it actually works, right? Efficiency. Plus, we'll look at a different way of doing things, an alternative that might make you rethink enterprise search a bit.
And what's really interesting, I think, is this basic trade-off it highlights. You've got what looks simple up front versus the longer-term strategic stuff.
Okay, yeah.
The article points out quite rightly that the default for a lot of companies is SaaS AI search, software as a service.
The usual suspect.
Pretty much. You basically bundle up your data, often really sensitive stuff, and send it off to a vendor's cloud. They handle the indexing, the searching.
Seems easy enough on the surface.
It seems easy. But, like the article says, it brings up a whole load of other things to think about, things that go way beyond just the tech setup.
Okay, perceived simplicity versus long-term strategic implications. I like that. Let's really dig into this SaaS model then. What are those sort of hidden trade-offs?
Well, the first big one is losing control.
Loss of control. Sounds a bit dramatic, but what does it actually mean here?
It means once your data leaves your building or your direct oversight and lives on their servers,
Mm-hmm.
you're suddenly depending on their security. There are
Wow.
clients people, their policies.
You're trusting them completely.
Exactly. And the article flags this risk. What if the vendor gets bought?
Oh, right. Happens all the time.
And suddenly your critical data, maybe your customer info or R&D, it's subject to totally new rules. Rules you had zero say in. That's a big shift in who's actually holding the reins.
Yeah, that feels uncomfortable, especially with sensitive data.
Absolutely. And then
Yeah.
connect that loss of control to, well, all the regulations flying around these days. It gets even more serious.
You mean things like GDPR, pay?
Precisely. Finance, healthcare, government, they're all under really strict rules. GDPR in Europe, HIPAA for health info in the US, SOC2 for service providers.
And these aren't just suggestions.
Not at all. There are often legal requirements about where data can even be stored, who can touch it. So a SaaS search tool, just by its nature, means moving your data outside.
Yeah.
You could potentially be breaking these really important rules, maybe without even fully realizing the risk when you signed up.
Wow. So the convenience might come with a pretty hefty compliance price tag later on.
It really might.
That's
It makes you
interesting.
ask, is that initial ease worth the risk of audits, fines, legal hassles down the road? It's a strategic calculation.
Definitely puts that convenience in a different light. And it's not just about the external rules, right? The article also talks about security risks inside the cloud itself, shared infrastructure.
Right. Now, look, these big cloud providers, they spend a fortune on security, no doubt.
Sure, they have to.
But the basic fact remains, your data is sitting on servers, often the same physical servers, as data from maybe thousands of other companies.
Even if it's logically separate.
Even with logical separation, it just inherently makes the potential target area bigger. You've got risks like maybe an insider threat at the vendor company, or an accidental leak, a simple misconfiguration somewhere in that huge system. It's just a different kind of risk compared to having it locked down on your own servers, or in a private cloud you fully control. It's less isolated.
Makes sense. More potential points of failure or attack.
Exactly. And then moving past security and compliance, which are obviously huge, there's the day-to-day practical stuff. How well does it actually work?
Performance.
Yeah, performance and latency. The article brings this up. Think about it. Every single time someone searches for something,
Uh-huh.
that query has to go out from your network across the internet, hit the vendor server, get processed, and the result comes back.
Okay, I can see how that adds up.
Especially if you've got massive amounts of data. That constant back and forth, plus keeping the data synced up between your place and theirs all the time,
Yeah.
it can really slow things down, create bottlenecks.
And users hate waiting for search results. They expect instant answers now.
They really do. So those cloud delays, even if they're small individually, they can really drag down how efficient people are.
Right, that friction just compounds across the whole organization. And, okay, then there's the thing I always worry about with these kinds of services. Vendor lock-in.
Ah, yes, the tech quicksand.
Exactly. It feels like once you've poured all your valuable data into their system, you're kind of stuck, aren't you?
It can definitely feel that way. The article talks about how hard and how expensive it often is to get your data back out.
If you want to switch vendors or use a different AI model, maybe.
Or even if they just jack up their prices. And this really hits on that desire you mentioned, listeners not wanting to feel trapped by tech choices.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
And for companies with really huge amounts of data, just thinking about migrating all that stuff to a different platform.
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare project.
It's massive,
Yeah.
incredibly time-consuming, super complex. The risk of the whole project just failing or running way over budget and time, it's significant.
And then you might be stuck having to undo everything you just did.
Precisely. Trying to unwind a huge data migration. Forget it. It increases uncertainty, things drag on, resources get drained. You can end up feeling completely stuck with that first decision you made.
That point about the migration itself being a huge risk factor, time, cost, potential failure, maybe even impossible to reverse, that's really critical.
It absolutely is. It's not just a tech problem, it's a major strategic gamble.
Yeah.
The resources needed, the risk to your data's integrity during the move, the disruption,
Yeah.
and if the new system doesn't even deliver what you hoped, trying to go back, like you said, it can be prohibitively expensive, a logistical nightmare. You just feel trapped.
Okay, so we've painted a pretty clear picture of why maybe jumping straight to SaaS for AI search needs some careful thought, lots of potential downsides.
For sure. Compelling reasons to be cautious.
So what's the alternative then? The article starts talking about this idea of bringing the AI to the data instead of the other way around. What does that actually look like?
Well, fundamentally, it means you deploy the AI search tools inside your own controlled environment.
Yeah. Like on our own servers, in our data center.
Either on premises in your data centers, or maybe in a private cloud environment that you still fully manage and control.
Got it.
The huge advantage. You keep control. Your data stays behind your firewall within your security perimeter.
So you avoid all those risks we just talked about, trusting a third party, potential compliance breaches from data leaving.
Exactly. It stays under your rules, your governance, your security protocols.
Oh, okay. And this is where the article brings in Swirl AI search, right, as an example of this AI to the data approach.
That's right. It positions Swirl as a good illustration of how this can work in practice.
So what makes it different? What's the key thing about Swirl, according to the article?
The really standout feature they describe is its architecture. They call it no data movement, or zero ETL.
Zero ETL. Okay, what's that mean? Extract, transform, load. So no loading.
Basically, yeah. Unlike the usual way where you have to copy all your data, transform it, index it, load it onto some separate platform.
Which is that risky migration we talked about.
Exactly. Swirl doesn't do that. It queries the information directly where it already lives, at the source.
Ah, okay. So no need to create a massive central index somewhere else or ship it all off to the cloud.
Correct. No central index needed, no external cloud storage required for the core data. It talks directly to your existing data stores.
Wow. That immediately tackles those huge worries about data migration, doesn't it? The risk, the time, the complexity, the chance of failure.
It directly addresses them. And because your data doesn't move, this is a big plus.
Yeah.
You can essentially try it out first.
Like a try before you buy.
Kind of, yeah. The upfront effort and risk are way lower. If you decide, for whatever reason, it's not the right fit, rolling back is minimal effort because your data never went anywhere.
That sounds incredibly practical. Removes a massive barrier to adoption, I'd imagine.
It really de-risks the whole process significantly.
And the article mentions it can be deployed on-prem or private cloud.
Yeah, a flexible deployment. So it fits right into those scenarios where you need to keep data within your own perimeter for compliance and security.
Makes sense. And security integration.
It says it hooks right into your existing security.
Mhm.
Things like single sign-on, your IAM systems, role-based access control.
So people only find what they're already allowed to see.
Exactly. It respects all your existing permissions and policies, which is critical.
And performance. If it's querying directly, is it faster?
That's the claim. By querying the sources directly, it avoids that round-trip latency to the cloud we discussed. So faster, real-time results, better productivity.
Okay. Faster, secure, respects permissions.
Yeah.
What about lock-in?
Also addressed. Because it runs in your environment, the article notes you're not locked into their specific AI models.
So you can choose which underlying AI engine to use, maybe swap them out later.
That's the idea. You retain that flexibility. You're not tied to one vendor's complete AI package.
That's a huge plus long-term. And they had a stat in there, didn't they, about productivity gains?
Yeah, a pretty eye-catching one. It cited organizations using Swirl seeing something like a 20% increase in productive time.
20%, wow.
Which they frame as, like, getting an extra day back each week, or 10 weeks per employee over a year.
Okay, that's a tangible benefit. That's the kind of aha moment that makes you really pay attention.
Definitely underscores the potential upside of getting search right.
All right, so let's recap. The core argument here seems pretty strong. If your organization really cares about data security, has strict compliance needs, wants fast performance, and needs to maintain control, then looking at on-prem or private cloud AI search, like the Swirl example, seems to offer some really significant benefits compared to just going with a standard public SaaS tool.
That sums it up well, especially when you factor in avoiding that whole data migration headache.
Right, that avoidance of the big, risky migration project makes it seem much more approachable, much less daunting to even consider.
Exactly. Solutions built like this let businesses tap into powerful AI search without taking on all the risks and complexity of shipping their data off somewhere else. It's about putting the intelligence where the data already is, safely.
So the main takeaway for you listening is, well, pretty important. Deciding where your AI search system lives isn't just some minor tech detail.
Not at all.
It has really deep, lasting effects on your security, your compliance ability, how efficiently your teams work day to day, and your future options, your flexibility down the road.
Which leads us to a final thought, maybe something for you to chew on. Just take a second and think. Where does your company's really valuable, really sensitive data actually sit right now? And then be honest. How much risk, how much uncertainty are you really willing to accept just to get AI search features?
Yeah.
What if?
Yeah.
What if you could get that power, find those insights, but without having to move your data anywhere?
That's the key question, isn't it?
It really is. And tools like Swirl AI Search, as we've talked about, they show that this approach is actually possible. It's definitely something to consider, thinking about how it could change the way your teams find and use information every single day.